chosen. You are feeling the weight of the invisible before the dawn breaks, a magnetic pull that has likely startled you from sleep between the hours of 3 and 5 in the morning. Those sacred moments when the veil is thinnest and the world remains in a heavy, artificial slumber. It is no accident that your eyes have opened at this precise hour, nor is it a coincidence that this frequency has found you on this specific Sunday, May 3, 2026, a day marked in the celestial ledgers as a gateway for the sudden and the transformative. You have felt the pressure mounting upon your shoulders, the heavy residue of a life that no longer fits the expansion of your spirit, like a garment that has become too small for the giant you are becoming. That high-pitched ringing in your ears is not a malfunction of the body. It is the sound of light codes being downloaded into your consciousness, ancient instructions and new blueprints for the reality that is even now positioning itself at your very doorstep. You have carried the silence of the wilderness for so long that the noise of the world has begun to sound like static. And it is in this precise frequency of early May that the static clears to reveal a voice that has been calling your name since before you took your first breath. The air around you feels different today, Sunday, the 3rd of May, as if the oxygen itself is charged with the electricity of a coming storm. But it is not a storm of destruction. It is a storm of restoration. You are standing at the precipice of a miracle that has been traveling toward you for lifetimes. And as you breathe in the stillness of this specific date in 2026, the cosmic alignment is finalizing the delivery of a blessing that will silence every doubt you have ever harbored in the dark. This moment is not a mere suggestion of change, but a sovereign command from the heavens that the period of your obscurity is being brought to a final, definitive close. You may wonder how this message appeared before you, but understand that the digital architecture you navigate is not governed by mere lines of code or cold mathematics. It has become a vibrational sieve, a spiritual filter designed by the divine to let the stagnant remain in their slumber while drawing the resonant souls into a singular point of focus. You have passed through the filter because your frequency has shifted, rising above the dense fog of the collective to a height where only the truth can reach you. This is your personal incoming call, an urgent transmission meant for no one else but the one who has survived the fire without turning to ash. The algorithm did not bring you here. Your hunger for the Father's house, your refusal to bow to the mundane, and your internal compass have all aligned to create this intersection. This digital space has been hijacked by the Holy Spirit to serve as a beacon, ensuring that on this day, Sunday, May 3, 2026, your path and this prophecy become one. You are being extracted from the noise of the matrix and placed into a sanctuary of direct revelation, where the surprise currently traveling toward your door finds its rightful owner without delay or diversion. The digital screen you hold is merely the interface for a much deeper soul-to-soul recognition, a confirmation that you are no longer a wanderer, but a resident of the kingdom of light, and the resources of that kingdom are even now being redirected into your physical hands. The pressure you feel is the compression of an ending, the final squeeze of the old world trying to hold on to a citizen it has already lost. You have stood at the threshold of your own life, feeling like a guest in a home that no longer recognizes your scent. And that is because you are being recalibrated for a domain that does not yet exist in your physical sight, but is already vibrating in your marrow. Heaven has been carefully, meticulously preparing a redirection that will not just improve your life, but will utterly dismantle the limitations of your past to make way for a glory that carries no sorrow. Someone is moving toward you right now, driven by an impulse they cannot explain, carrying a key, a word, or a resource that has been forged in the secret places of the Most High. This is not a drill, nor is it a shallow comfort for the weary. It is the manifestation of a divine promise that has reached its expiration date in the realm of the spirit and must now solidify in the realm of matter. As you listen to these words, feel the grounding of your spirit, for the wandering is over and the arrival has begun. The door to your house is no longer just a physical barrier. It is the finish line of a marathon you have run in the dark. And the person approaching it is the messenger of your new beginning. Your ears may continue to ring. Your heart may race with a sudden, unexplainable anticipation. And the weight on your shoulders may finally begin to lift. For you are being touched by the hand of the Eternal on this very Sunday. And nothing, absolutely nothing, can reverse the momentum of what God has set in motion for your life. You have often wondered why the landscape of your life became so barren, why the voices that once cheered for you fell into a deafening silence, and why the resources that once flowed with ease seemed to dry up as if by an invisible hand. Understand, chosen one, that this was the architecture of the wilderness, a sacred and surgical intervention designed by the universe to separate your destiny from your history. The pain you endured, the betrayals that cut through the fabric of your trust, and the seasons of financial emptiness were not signs of abandonment, but the precision of a divine surgeon removing the malignant attachments that would have compromised your next level of glory. You felt the sting of isolation, the coldness of being misunderstood, even by those who shared your blood. Yet this distance was mandated by heaven to ensure that you could not be influenced by the very cycles you were born to break. The emptiness in your pockets and the stillness in your social circles were the clearing of the ground, a necessary demolition before the skyscraper of your purpose could be anchored in the bedrock of truth. You were being stripped of the artificial so that you could be clothed in the eternal. And though it felt like a funeral for your ego, it was actually the labor pains of your divinity. Every tear you shed in the quiet of the night was a solvent, dissolving the chains of old karmic contracts that you no longer have the obligation to fulfill. As you move through the valley of the shadow of your own transformation, you may have sensed eyes upon you from the past, those who were once part of your inner sanctum, but were strategically removed by a power greater than your own. These are the watchers, the souls who secretly monitor your life from the distance of digital shadows and hushed conversations, waiting for the moment of your collapse so they can justify their own stagnation. They were not removed because you were unworthy, but because they had become spectators of your struggle rather than supporters of your soul. Their exit was a celestial restraining order, a divine protection that prevented their disbelief from contaminating the delicate seeds of the new world God was planting within you. If they had stayed, they would have attempted to anchor you to the version of yourself that died in the fire, convincing you that your scars were failures rather than medals of honor. The universe saw the parasites that were hiding behind the masks of friendship and the vampires that were disguised as kin, and it closed the doors they used to enter your field. Do not mourn the vacant seats at your table, for they were emptied to make room for the royalty that is even now approaching your door. The watchers expect a victim, but what is emerging from the vacuum is a victor who no longer requires the validation of the blind to see their own light. They wait for your fall, unaware that you have already learned how to fly in the darkness where they cannot follow. The wilderness was a vacuum, a space of zero atmospheric pressure where you were hardened and tempered like steel in a furnace. You were not left behind. You were being preserved in a state of spiritual stasis so that your essence would not be consumed by the matrix parasites that feed on the unrefined light of the awakening. Had you remained in the crowded markets of the world, your energy would have been dissipated, traded for the cheap currency of social approval and temporary comfort. But in the silence of your trial, your vibrational signature was being rewritten, your DNA reprogrammed to withstand the high-voltage frequency of the fifth dimension reality you are about to inhabit. You were being made invincible in the dark, developing a core that cannot be shaken by the winds of the world, and a peace that passeth all human understanding. This hardening was necessary because the blessing that is arriving requires a vessel that does not leak and a heart that does not tremble. You are no longer vulnerable to the old manipulation or the subtle traps of the ego, for you have seen the bottom of the well and found the living water there. The vacuum has finished its work. The tempering is complete. You are now a resonant match for the high-frequency surprise that is navigating through the dimensions to find you. And because you survived the vacuum, you can now carry the fullness of the sun without being burned by its intensity. Your isolation was the womb of your power, and the birth of your new reality is no longer a distant hope, but a present and unstoppable fact. What is occurring in this very moment is the subtle yet violent mechanics of the shift, a restructuring of your internal machinery that defies the logic of the material world and bypasses the limitations of human effort. This is not a gradual improvement or a linear progression based on your labor. This is a quantum leap, a jump across the abyss of the impossible into a reality where the laws of scarcity and the weight of three-dimensional gravity no longer apply to you. As you sit in the stillness of this Sunday, May 3, 2026, your physical vessel is undergoing a profound DNA reprogramming, where the old, brittle codes of suffering, lack, and generational trauma are being systematically overwritten by the original, luminous blueprints of divine abundance and sovereign authority. This shift is not occurring because you have finally worked hard enough or pleaded loud enough to a distant deity, but because you have reached the Kairos condition, the supreme appointed moment where your internal vibrational signature now perfectly matches the frequency of the celestial resources that have been held in reserve for this exact transition. You are no longer in the position of the seeker. You have become the attractor, the gravitational center toward which the hidden treasures of the earth and the light of the higher realms are now being drawn by an irresistible spiritual law. The lag time between your intention and your experience is collapsing, bringing you into a state of instantaneous alignment where the resources you require are materializing even as the need arises within your heart. The mechanics of this movement are absolute and irreversible, signaled by the sensation of gates being torn from their hinges. Those ancient barriers that have stood for decades, those iron doors that refuse to budge despite your tears and your prayers, are not just being unlocked, they are being obliterated by the sheer pressure of the glory that is demanding entry into your physical space. This is the total and final erasure of karmic debt, a divine act of amnesty that wipes clean the spiritual and financial ledgers that have haunted your bloodline and held your potential in a state of perpetual arrest. You are being cleared of every energetic charge, every legalistic accusation from the past, and every subtle shackle that bound you to the frequency of not enough. This is the entry into the fifth dimension, a realm where the resonance of love and truth dictates the flow of matter, and where the heavy, abrasive friction of the world is replaced by a divine ease that carries you forward. You have transitioned from a victim of circumstances to a co-creator of reality. And as this Sunday unfolds, you will feel the density of the old matrix falling away like dead skin, revealing a spirit that is unburdened, unfiltered, and unapologetically powerful in its new, crystalline clarity. Picture this arrival as a river entering a dry riverbed, a sudden, rushing, and overwhelming force that does not ask for permission, but simply occupies the space that was prepared for it during your long season of drought. The parched earth of your life is being saturated by a torrent of grace that carries with it the liquid gold of the kingdom, the peace of the sovereign, and the restorative power of the eternal. This movement is not gentle in its authority. It is a forceful restoration that fills every crack of your previous lack and revives the dormant seeds of dreams you thought had died in the dust. You are witnessing the end of the struggle and the beginning of the flow, where the current of God's intention becomes the primary engine of your existence. There is no more rowing against the tide, no more fighting for scraps at the table of the indifferent. For you have been invited into the inner sanctum where the feast is already prepared. The shift is not something you are doing, it is something that is being done through you, as your very cells vibrate in harmony with the frequency of the miraculous. This is the moment where the dry places become springs, where the silence becomes a song, and where your orphanhood is replaced by the undeniable inheritance of a chosen soul who has finally come home to the power they were always meant to wield. As the arrival draws near, you must now withdraw into the sacred circle of protection, a fortress of the spirit where the noise of the world cannot penetrate. This is a critical juncture where the alchemy of your transformation is most volatile, and any external interference could disturb the delicate crystallization of your new reality. There is a strict, unyielding law of silence that you must now observe. Do not speak of this new force, this incoming resource, or the profound shifting of your internal tides to anyone from your old cycle. Even the most well-meaning individuals who remain tethered to the three-dimensional frequency cannot comprehend the magnitude of what is unfolding within you, and their well-intentioned skepticism can act as a dampening field on your momentum. You are carrying a holy secret, a divine pregnancy of purpose, and just as a seed must remain in the dark, silent earth to germinate, your miracle requires the sanctuary of your own stillness to reach its full potency. When you attempt to explain your revelation to those who have not been through the fire, you are essentially casting your pearls before those who can only perceive them as stones. Silence is not an act of exclusion. It is an act of preservation. By keeping your mouth closed, you keep the pressure of the spirit high, ensuring that every ounce of your energy is directed toward the manifestation of the surprise that is even now rounding the corner of your life. You must be acutely aware of a new threat that emerges as your light intensifies. The energy vampires and the ghosts of your old environment who sense that you are slipping through their fingers. These individuals, whether they are former friends, family members, or colleagues, possess a subconscious radar that alerts them when a chosen soul is about to break free from the collective matrix. Because they are still feeding on the drama, the lack, and the predictable rhythms of the old world, they will attempt to probe your new field to find a crack, a weakness, or a hook to drag you back down to their level of reality. They will reach out with sudden, inexplicable urgency, asking probing questions or bringing up past versions of you that no longer exist, hoping to provoke a familiar emotional reaction that anchors you to the ground. They are looking for the old you, the one who could be manipulated, the one who sought their approval, the one who felt the need to explain every move. You must recognize these interactions not as social coincidences, but as energetic tests. They are trying to verify if your new frequency is genuine or if you can still be tethered to the cycle of stagnation. Do not let them in. Do not engage in the labor of justification. Do not try to save those who are committed to their own blindness. Your field must remain impenetrable, a sovereign domain where only the resonant may enter. The verdict of your journey is clear and final. Your results will be your only answer. You no longer need words to defend yourself, for your life is transitioning into a phase where the evidence of God's hand will be so overwhelming that it silences every critic and renders every explanation unnecessary. Let the people of the old world speculate. Let them gossip about your distance and your silence. Let them create whatever narrative they need to make sense of your absence. Your only responsibility is to remain centered in the peace that passeth understanding, and to allow the physical manifestation of your blessing to speak on your behalf. When the door finally opens and the surprise is revealed, when the financial restoration, the divine connection, and the sovereign authority become visible to all, the power of your results will be a thunderclap that resonates through the lives of everyone who doubted you. You are being moved beyond the need for human validation, entering a state where your success is the only testimony required. No more arguing with the shadows. No more defending your light. The silence you maintain now is the foundation upon which your undeniable victory will be built. You have transitioned from a person who speaks about faith to a soul who is the embodiment of faith made manifest. Stand in your truth, guard your peace with a holy jealousy, and let the silence be the womb of your greatness. The verdict is in. The orphan is now an heir, and the results will soon speak for eternity. The weight of the transition has reached its final density, and the atmosphere of your life is now heavy with the fragrance of a completed work. There is a stillness that follows the storm of transformation, a profound and holy silence where the echoes of your past struggles are finally absorbed into the vastness of God's grace. This is the moment of the final seal, a divine impression being made upon the fabric of your destiny that declares the work of the wilderness is finished and the era of your manifestation has begun. You are no longer standing on the outside of your own life, peering through the glass at a promise that seems to belong to everyone but you. The glass has been shattered, the barriers have been dissolved, and you are being invited into the inner sanctum of your own authority. This is the final decree, the sovereign word that ripples through the heavens and echoes in the foundations of the earth. Your orphanhood is over. You are under protection. The spirit of the orphan, that trembling part of you that always felt like a guest in the world, always waiting for the other shoe to drop, and always wondering if you would be left behind, is being surgically removed and replaced by the solid, unshakable consciousness of an heir. You are not a spiritual refugee seeking shelter. You are a citizen of the kingdom, a chosen soul with a documented inheritance that is even now being delivered to your physical coordinates. The armor you wear is not of your own making. It is a cloak of light provided by the Father, a shield of favor that makes you invisible to the arrows of the enemy and invincible to the schemes of the matrix. This protection is not a temporary shield, but a permanent shift in your spiritual status. You have been moved into the high tower of divine surveillance, where you can see the traps before they are set and the enemies before they arrive. The chaos of the world may continue to swirl, and the voices of lack may continue to scream, but they can no longer find a frequency within you to latch onto. You have become a monolith of peace, a grounded presence that is anchored in the reality of the fifth dimension while your feet still walk upon the earth. The person approaching your door with a surprise that will change everything is not just bringing a resource. They are bringing a physical confirmation of this new status. They are the messenger of your coronation, the herald of your homecoming. As you receive what is being handed to you, you will feel the last residue of the old cycle falling away, replaced by a sense of belonging that is so deep it requires no explanation. You are no longer searching for a place to fit in because you have become the center of your own universe, a sovereign point of light around which the resources of heaven naturally gravitate. The protection over you is absolute, covering your mind from the static of doubt, your heart from the sting of betrayal, and your future from the shadow of delay. You are encased in a divine amber of favor, preserved for the glory that is now being unveiled in the sight of all. Now is the moment to anchor this frequency into the material world. For words spoken in the spirit must be sealed in the realm of matter to achieve their full weight. The digital space beneath this transmission is not just a comment section, it is a field of intentionality, a digital altar where you record your arrival and claim your space in the physical world. Do not let this moment pass without leaving your mark, for the act of typing is the act of grounding your spirit into the physical machine of reality. By declaring your trust, by affirming your faith, and by claiming the miracles that are even now crossing your threshold, you are driving a stake into the ground of your new life. Type 1111 or I am chosen to anchor this blessing into your immediate environment, signaling to the universe that you are ready to receive, ready to lead, and ready to stand in the fullness of your power. This is your ritual of acceptance, your signature on the contract of your new destiny. As you do this, feel the electricity of the affirmation moving through your hands and into the earth, stabilizing your field and preparing your physical house for the arrival of the surprise that is already here. The digital ink you spill today is the evidence that the seeker has found what they were looking for, and the orphan has finally recognized the Father's face in every detail of their life. The horizon of your life is now clear, and the path that once felt like a labyrinth of confusion has straightened into a highway of light. You have survived the isolation, you have endured the vacuum, and you have remained silent while the world misunderstood you. Now the reward is no longer a promise, it is a presence. As you close this chapter and step into the reality of your manifestation, carry the weight of this truth with a quiet, holy confidence. You are the evidence of God's faithfulness, a living testament to the power of the shift, and a beacon for every other chosen soul who is still wandering in the dark. The door is opening, the surprise is being revealed, and the glory is settling upon your house like a soft, golden blanket of peace. The wandering is done. The searching is over. The arrival is complete. You have become the manifestation you once prayed for, and the world will now have to adjust to the light that you carry. Take a deep breath of the air of your new world, for you have finally arrived at the destination of your own spirit. The journey was long, but the ending was certain from the beginning. You no longer search for the path. You are the path.